Hey team, we are live again and we are moving on to part 4 of our Why Diets Fail Us kind of video series to talk you through the different aspects of kind of going through a diet and coming out of a diet and what impact that has on your body. So last time in part talked about how your fat cells and how your body and your hormones respond to a bit of overfeeding, and when you come out of a diet and how the body kind of reacts to that in terms of increased expression of fat storage genes, and kind of decreased fatty acid oxidation, that sort of thing. If these words mean nothing to you, then please go back to part 1, part 2 and part 1. I covered the overall concept of why a diet might fail you. Part 2, we covered the adaptations that your metabolic kind of support system does to your body, and in part 3 we covered how the body changes in terms of fat storage and how it responds to for your whole life. You'll probably be familiar with the kind of the general up and down nature of appetite, feeding, kind of being at low calorie, being at high calorie, and going through that bit of a kind of a roller coaster when it comes to your calorie intake and just generally overall. Part 4 today, and today we are covering your body's kind of diet memory. And this isn't necessarily an official term. It's just something that I heard someone else say, and I thought it was really good. I thought diet memory really encompasses what your body actually does almost when it's kind of been through diet after diet after diet. Those protective mechanisms that it does, and if you put yourself back into that kind of diet or famine state, then your body actually will be able to recognize that, and it will potentially fight back even harder than last time, making it harder and harder and harder every time that you try to lose weight with a dramatic or a kind of, even if it's after years or decades of doing this, it might not even be a dramatic calorie deficit. It might just be that your calories at base level are so low that even a small deficit at that stage kind of prompts your body to kind of protect and recognize the situation as famine, and therefore must protect from death. So that essentially, I've covered this before, but that is your body's one and only priority. Okay, your body's priority is keeping you alive. It doesn't care if you want to lose a few pounds. It doesn't care if you want to reduce your calories to do that. All it cares about is the kind of the hormonal profile and the things that are happening biologically inside the body that are creating this kind of feeling and sense of need to protect the body from that famine state. So if post diet, essentially, we've talked a little bit about this before, and again, I really do encourage you to go back and watch part 1, 2 and 3, just so you can thicken out your knowledge on kind of the themes that I'm talking about today, just because these are a continuation series. They should make sense as standalone videos, but if you want to kind of really develop your understanding and really take action, we've had action points from part 1, 2 and 3. So really it's best that you've taken those steps first before you keep moving on and moving on and moving on. Okay, so this is not just information being kind of thrown at you. I want you to take this as almost like a conversation. I'm giving you information, I'm giving you action points that you can take away and implement in your lifestyle, and I want you to come back to me with that information, and you and I together can then work on developing a way of moving you beyond where you are at the moment. Okay, so we need to get your body to a place where when you put it into a deficit, it's not so dramatic that it goes into this famine fight phase, but it's enough that it stimulates the response that you want to get. And that can be quite a complicated thing, so we just need to make sure that we're getting the balance right for you as an individual. So please, again, get those action points done, get that understanding, get that knowledge, because I need you on a certain level to kind of have this conversation about you've come out of a diet. So when you've been in that kind of long diet phase, it could be 6, 8, 12, 16 weeks, it could be 20 weeks, it could be more than that, for however long that you've been in that deficit for, trying to kind of stimulate that weight loss through that deficit, you will have this kind of unique kind of blend of hormones at this stage when you start to kind of consider coming out of this diet. And we've got to consider those things because this will impact on how your body reacts when you start refeeding. Okay, so in that post-dieting phase, you will have low insulin, low leptin, you will have decreased sympathetic nervous system tone, you will have decreased T3, which is a thyroid hormone, and there'll be decreased fatty acid oxidation, which we talked about in part 3. Sorry, I just need a bit of a drink. And in this situation, and this is not something I want you to panic about, because this is something that probably happens mostly in rare cases. It's not something that happens to everybody. Just because you've been through diets in and out of your life doesn't mean that this has happened to you. This is just something I want you to know about so that you can understand it and bear it in mind when you are considering a diet and considering coming out of a diet. Okay, so with those things in mind, with that low insulin, low leptin, low T3, and all the other things combined, your fat cells have a kind of a unique kind of ability in this case to develop new fat cells. So this gives us the capacity for becoming bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Okay, so normally your thyroid hormones will play a massive role in keeping your fat cells at a certain level. We talked about the kind of fat cell turnover, like all our cells, all our cells are turning over on a daily, weekly basis. So we shed our skin cells, our organ cells, everything is kind of turning over and just kind of replacing level by level by level. So this is also happening to your fat cells. In this situation, it seems like when you are in this post-diet phase where you are, considering having your post-diet meal, putting those calories back in, raising those calories, potentially having a really big blowout treat meal, it appears that in that situation, the massive flux of nutrients that are going into the cell at that time, kind of paired with that state of the body being in kind of, desperate storage mode and not kind of dissipating that extra energy through heat, and that kind of hormonal profile, through all of those things combined, it seems like it puts the body in a situation where the new fat cells can develop, because of those things essentially. So we've got to bear in mind that this is, again, like I said, it's a rarity. It's not something that happens to everyone. It's not something that I want you to start panicking about. It's just something that I want you to be aware of, particularly if you know that you're the kind of person that comes out of a diet and goes, bam, let's eat all the food. Let's have all the things I enjoy. I'm going to have a massive Domino's pizza and a whole ton of Ben and Jerry's, and I'm going to have, all that stuff that you weren't allowed to have before. Let's take a step back from that and recognize what this might be doing to your body. Okay, so you're putting your body in a state where you are kind of rapidly ramming calories into your body. You're ramming those calories, that energy, into those cells, because your body is still in that kind of storage, doesn't want to waste any calories mode. So you're essentially going to be storing more than usual. So in that state, post-diet, when everything is kind of set up, you're putting yourself in a state where you're making it harder and harder and harder and harder to lose that weight longer term. So this is why it's so important to avoid crash dieting, yo-yo dieting, and then massive refeeds, because it sets us up for this kind of body fat overshooting. So you've seen the images before where you've got the kind of little stick person, which is pre-diet, during the diet a bit smaller, and then post-diet they're bigger than they were in the original image. So I'm sure you've all seen that before. If not in a little meme, then you've probably seen it in yourself, where if you look at pictures of yourself before you started dieting, often I hear, what I wouldn't give to be that size now, after all of these years of trying to be smaller than that size, that size doesn't actually seem so bad anymore. Okay, so it's something that I don't want you to start fretting over, panicking over. And this really only happens if you refeed and binge like hard and fast enough to kind of get that kind of particular balance of things going on. So just bear that in mind. If you can approach your weight loss, if you can approach your fat loss, if you can approach your diet, if you want to do a diet with a bit more care, a bit more attention, a bit more of a maybe a more an appropriate deficit rather than just lopping off a massive wad of calories, then then you'll be in a better state for coming out of that diet. There's nothing wrong with dieting per se. It's more about the way that you choose to do it and the way that you choose to look after your body. Okay, so your body fat set point in general, the kind of the point that your body fat set point is essentially where your body is happy and content to remain. So you'll know that you have like a range of weight or a range of body fat where your body is kind of happy. And your body fat set point is determined by your fat cells. Okay, so it's more important than ever, if you want to have a healthy body fat set point, that you put your fat cells in a position where they're not kind of primed for storage, they're not kind of reducing their fatty acid oxidation, they're not kind of ramming calories and energy into those cells, that you're just having that nice kind of oxidation turnover and making sure that everything's operating at kind of an equilibrium, if you want to call it that. Okay, so bear that in mind. If this has been confusing, please let me know. If this has been something that you think is happening to you, again, come and talk to me. Next time we are talking more about strategies. So we're going to be talking about can potentially mimic these habits to get better results in the diets and the kind of weight loss efforts that we make. So this is not about finding a magical answer. People that are successful with diets, they're not special people. They're not people that have like a magic formula. They don't have a pill or a potion or anything like that that makes them kind of more successful. They tend to have a set of really good habits in their lifestyles that lead them toward more long-term and more sustainable dieting or weight loss or fat loss results. Okay, so that's what we're covering next time. If you have any questions, if you have kind of a story or a case study of yourself that you want to share, please let me know, and I'll review it and I'll talk you through it. Otherwise, I'm going to link up the download over on the website so you can download the notes for this video. But yeah, questions, let me know. Comments, let me know. If you are stuck or frustrated or lost or confused, please talk to me. Okay, this stuff is confusing. If it wasn't confusing, then we wouldn't all be in this situation where we're feeling like we don't have control over our fat loss and weight loss. Okay, so please don't feel silly. Please don't feel stupid. Please feel like you can ask questions. If you have a question, if you are confused, then you can guarantee that someone else that is watching or someone else around you has the same confusion and the same frustration. Okay, you're not alone. You don't have to struggle with this alone. If you're brave and reach out and talk to me, then I can talk you through it and put you hopefully in a position where you feel that you've got a bit more power over what your choices are and a bit more control over the narrative of your weight loss. All right, I'll see you next time for part 5, and that will be full of strategies and ideas of things that you can do to implement in your lifestyle. Okay, action points from today. If you haven't kind of gone over part 1, 2, and 3, go and do them. If you have already watched them, go and watch them again. Make sure you're taking all the actions that I suggest at the end of each one, and let's get you in a really good kind of mental state for engaging with part 5 so that you're ready to rock and roll. All right, I'll see you soon.